Welcome to the AR Performance Squash Advantage, hosted by me, Ahad Raza, a former PSA touring pro turned elite performance mentor and coach. I break down tactics, technique, fitness, and mindset by analyzing players from the past and present, both men and women. I aspire to teach, empower, and guide transformation. Let's get started. What's up, everyone? Today's video is all about Jonathan Power, and we break down one of his most renowned abilities, which was his deception. Now, as always, let us first walk you through the format of the video. And as you can see, what we're going to be doing is reviewing several clips showing how he used his deception and exactly what he did. Then we're going to look at how he actually used natural deception in addition to all the fancy snapping and all of that sort of stuff. And then we're also going to look at the importance of his wrist position, because that is one of the consistent things in his technique, and it's something that a lot of amateurs have slight confusion around. And I'll give you the little context or little hint into that, is that a lot of people think that deception results from doing this with your wrist. But what you'll notice is that, and this is from some of the previous clips I've shared with Sherbini as well, is that deception stems from the forearm and snapping through the ball. So it's a forearm snap with the wrist, but it's never this and only the wrist flopping. You're never going to generate power like that. You might occasionally do like the little dink like that, but it's always a snap with everything. So that's a little preamble for you guys. So first thing we're going to look at is JP using some front court deception, or how he used deception from the front of the court. And I'm going to show you guys a couple of clips, and we're going to slow down and break down a couple of clips, and then we're going to do some of the other comparisons that I talked about. So check this out. Short clips about to begin now. And here it is from the front. So I'm going to show you guys that one from the front one more time. Get ready, try to pick up on everything he's doing. And the different elements you can look at could be his footwork, his racket position, his contact point, his follow through. And when I said racket position, I mean racket prep. You got to look at how open or closed his hips are, whether he's stepping open or closed stance, all of those sorts of things. So take one more look now. Okay, now let's break this down in slow-mo. So he gets a pretty loose ball into the front of the court, and you see him right there. He uses, I don't know what you want to call it. You can call it like a 3/4 prep. He's not high up with his racket prep. He's not super low with his racket prep. He's sort of in this 3/4 position, and he likes to hit a lot of shots from this 3/4 position. And for him, that is his position of natural deception, because if he can do everything from here, if it's a drive, a drop, a boast, a kill, well, this is his natural deception position. Some players have a more traditional, slightly higher position for all shots, but if you can execute everything from there, you're also having natural deception. So there's no one way is better than the other. Now from here, what you're going to notice is his contact point when he actually made contact with the ball. If I rewind it a tiny bit, he's in line with that front foot or just around that point. Then the other thing you're going to see is he's in an open stance. So right leg is forward, meaning his hips are open to the front wall. If his left leg was forward, then his hips would have been facing the right side wall a little bit more. So that's called closed stance. And his foot and his toe is pointed into this front corner. That's another tip for you guys. When you guys are moving and hitting shots, and this is one of the most common errors I remember having to correct all the time in clinics, is when people step, especially into the back corners, they never turn their foot to point into the corner they're going into. So let's say I want to go to the back right. My foot, my toe should be pointed into that back right corner. Most players come and point their foot sideways into the wall, and then you lose your balance. You can't decelerate, and you're losing your, you start going over your body and you're falling backwards instead of actually being stable. So always think about pointing your foot, your toe in the direction that you're moving in, because that will also force you to open your hips up, as opposed to then having your hips closed and being off balance. So that's a little tip for you guys. Now, over here, the other benefit of this is that when he steps open stance, His hips are open, everything's open. The easier shot to hit here is a cross-court drive. It's a lot harder to hit a tight, straight ball down the wall. So you have to then have a lot of skills in the hands and the forearms and the wrist and the contact point, etc., which obviously top players do have. So that position allows him, and check this out in a second. Look at that follow through. So his follow through is also coming across his body, which makes it look like he's hitting a cross court. And for anyone you can't see because of my line, I can move the line for a second. His wrist is nice and cocked as well. So now you got a follow through coming across the body opening up so it really looks like the ball is going cross court, and he's got the good wrist position. And then what you'll see is that Palmer has a little misstep. I'm going to rewind that for you so you can see that. So watch how Palmer takes a little stutter, and then he has to put that foot down again. And the beauty was that Power actually executed the shot really well. So, and that little deception by Power in this situation, and that little stutter by Palmer in this situation, combined with the good length, is what allowed that shot to be a winner. And you can just see that being executed there. And Palmer's a big guy. He's I think 6'1" or 6'2", something like that. So for him to not be able to reach it because of that little stutter, because of the deception you just saw, is, in my opinion, effective, or an effective use of deception. So now let's check this one out. So this is going real speed from the back. Then we have real speed from the front. And now let's break it down. So similar sort of setup to the last one. This ball is tighter. So step one, notice how Power is accelerating onto the ball because he does not want this ball going onto the side wall. One mistake that most amateurs make is that they let the ball go to the side wall, they wait, and then the ball sort of either gets stuck on the side wall, or it then dies by the time you get it and it's dropping, and then you're kind of stuck and you can't hit the ball basically. So Power is getting on it early. You see the similar racket prep, kind of that 3/4 position, not super high, not super low. Same thing as we just saw from the previous clip. His contact point is again kind of in line with this front foot, and he's coming forward diagonally. He's not going across to the sidewall, he's actually going forward diagonally. And you can see that from kind of the foot is again pointed into this front corner. Again, like I said, you need a lot of skill to execute this shot effectively. This open stance position with the right foot being forward on his forehand means that it looks like he's hitting the cross court, but instead what you notice here, he uses a different skill compared to the previous video. And you notice that. So number one, he comes across with his racket. So again, showing that cross court. And there's that across. And what you'll notice is he also went over the ball a little bit here. So watch him roll. You see how his racket is actually horizontal? It's because he started here and then he went like this. So he went across the ball with a little bit of spin on it to actually send that ball down the wall. And you see that Palmer's natural instinct is to move to the left. And see, Palmer's even got his racket up. All his momentum's going here to the left side because Power has, with his body, with his follow through, with all of that, shown Palmer the cross court. And Palmer cannot even move or even think about moving to recover for that shot. And Power executed it fairly well down the wall. So now let's check out another one here. So I'm going to show you that one again from the back, and then we'll see it again from the front, or from another angle, a close-up. So here it is from the back, here it is from a different angle, and here it is in slow-mo. So again, Power is going open stance. This time he did let that ball come off because his ball's popped up way into the middle. And notice this time he's at a lower setup. So this could also be because of the trajectory of the ball, all of these, there are many other factors at play here which we can't see because of the angles and so on. But what we can see is that he's going open stance again. He's opened up to that front wall to show that cross court if he wants. We know that he can punch it down the wall. Linku knows that too. And then from here, he's got, like I said, open stance. This is a slightly different technique that he uses over here compared to the previous ones. So in the previous ones, in this one, what he's doing is that he's got a very, very short backswing, and he basically just snaps through that ball. So I'm going to show you that one again. So he sets up over here like we saw, and then from here, he has no real recoil to his swing, and all he's doing is he's coming here, and then he's getting a little bit from the forearm and the wrist, and then he's just snapping through. So I'm going to move up a little bit so you can see. He's coming here, there's a little bit of forearm and wrist that goes on, and then it's a snap like this through the shot. And you'll notice that he actually comes through it like that, because you can see his racket at the end of this swing. So there's that piece coming through the ball. I'm going super frame by frame for you here. And then notice his arm is in this position and his racket is actually coming down. So why is his racket coming down? Because from here, he's actually, you know what? Let me show you with this. So he's here. I'm going to stand up and show you guys what this looks like. So he's here, and then he's snapping and then going like this with his racket. So it's this forearm rotation to generate power. Little bit of recoil and then snap. Little bit of recoil and then snap. So that's how he's generating power, and that's why his racket ends up coming here, because this forearm is doing the rotation. So now that we see that, you can see that there are many different ways of actually executing this deception from the front of the court. Different racket preps, different techniques, but remember, it's not this. You see him doing this, and you can kind of see that because his arm has also straightened out over here. And there's that snap. And then look at Linku's position. He has no idea where that ball is going. And Linku was a very athletic, strong, and very good mover. And he's just totally stuck and does not know where that ball is going. Let's check out another one. So over here, I'm going to just play this for you a few times, okay? And I'm going to suggest we look at a couple of different things each time we play this, okay? So number one, JP has a mini hold before he strikes the ball, and I didn't break this down in slow-mo because I thought it's far more effective to see it over here in real speed, but I'll just keep playing it back. I love analyzing things like this. So you're going to see JP hold the ball just a little bit before he actually hits it. So check this out. We're going to check it out again. His approach, hold, hit. Approach, hold, hit. Approach, hold, hit. Now, the next thing you'll see is that he snaps through that shot. So he has the usual setup right there, his usual half kind of setup, and then he just comes and he snaps through that shot. So watch the snap. Snap. And again, snap. And there it is. And then the last thing I want to show you guys from here is how Linku responds to it. So check this out. Watch his feet, and he got stuck there, and then he caught his balance and stuck, and then off balance. Again, stuck, off balance. And what resulted? A loose ball, because he just tried to get his racket on it because he knew if that ball got past him, he was not getting it. And as a result, loose ball, JP has a clinical execution to it. Now, next one, we're going to go through a similar format to what we just did. He gets the loose ball here, and then he snaps it again. So the first one, you're going to see that he has that same hold and hit. Hold and hit. Hold and hit. And now from here, watch that snap when he accelerates through with his forearm. And snap. It's so fast. There it is. Snap. And let's watch Linku's reaction. There's a little, watch this. Stuck, and then he has to turn. And stuck, and he has to turn. And then it forces another loose ball. And over here, we'll just do this one once. I'll go slow-mo to begin with. JP is setting up to show a bit of a drop, and then at the last second, you see He's showing the drop in the last second. He recoils his forearm and his wrist a little bit to snap through that ball. And then watch the snap. There's the snap. The quality wasn't good enough. Otherwise, you notice Linku was moving forward. So check it out. There's a snap, and then Linku got stuck because he's moving forward. He has to readjust his left foot to then push him back. If that ball was a little bit tighter, it would have been different. And here, I'll do one breakdown for you. So let's check this out. So JP's coming. I wanted to show you the technique on the backhand actually, because we only did forehand earlier. So JP comes in for the ball. 3/4 racket prep. Comes through, drops the racket face a little bit, shows the drop, and then you got that punch through the ball using the forearm. And then you notice this is the same one we just saw. Linku kind of gets stuck. He was moving forward and then has to go across and then has to chase that ball. So now once he chases it, what that does is it forces another loose ball like we just discussed. And over here, let's start at the beginning of this one. So here JP is in this sort of, again, not super high, kind of in this mid-range position. And then from here, you see him snap through. And you notice he doesn't just stop his swing, he actually accelerates that arm through the ball, because you can't just do this to generate power, it's this to generate power. And then from there, the quality just wasn't good enough, but it really had a solid effect on Linku. Now let's check out a couple of videos from the backcourt. So let's see that again. Step one, watch his racket prep. We're just gonna do this once or twice because I think you guys are starting to see the trend. Racket prep is mid prep, and then he has a little pause and then accelerates. And then mid prep, pause, accelerates. So watch this. We'll do it 2 or 3 times maybe. And prep, pause, accelerate. Let's do it again. Prep, pause, accelerate. Prep, pause, accelerate. And check out the effect on Palmer. We'll just see this. So he's going and little hesitation and step. Now, you know, it seems like a very minor thing to have that little hesitation, but that little hesitation, if you do it repeatedly, adds up fatigue and uncertainty, and then Palmer's timing is thrown off if your shot quality is good enough, and then he's not really going to be able to get that ball easily. So now, let's check out the natural deception piece that I talked about. So if you come here and you compare these two clips, check out the racket prep. So racket position here, right foot in front, close stance, right foot in front, close stance. Body angles with the chest, back, all look almost identical. And then from here, Power snaps through on the one shot, and then over here he plays the drop on the other shot, on the other side. And the reason this is also extremely effective is because JP had a very, very effective drop shot. He had a very effective drive. He had a very effective cross-court kill. So this goes back to that idea of having natural deception with the same setup and same swing that we've talked about in previous videos, and then also being able to execute multiple shots from the same position. If you remember the video on Cameron Pilley, and then your opponent really doesn't have much of a clue of what's going on. And if your shot quality is good enough in addition to the natural deception with shot options, chances are you're going to be winning points left, right, and center. So you can see over here, the drop shot was perfectly executed, and the other one sent Linku back under pressure. And then I wanted to show you the last piece on wrist position really quickly. So if you come here, check this out. Crazy kill from that position, and if you see it from here, we're going to see it two or three different things. One, we're going to watch JP's racket prep, and you're going to see that his wrist is nice and cocked. Then you're going to see him snap, but you're going to see exactly what I've been talking about. It's not this, it's a snap with the whole forearm. And he does not break his wrist, so his wrist doesn't end up like this. It's always kind of in this position, and it ends in this position too. So check this out. So here, watch, look at that racket prep. nice and high, close stance. Again, he likes that close stance on the backhand. And then got that strong wrist. And then look, even at the end, there's the snap, and then he brings his wrist back to this position. So I'm going to show you that one more time. So snap, and wrist is right back. Last one. Early racket prep, strong wrist, snap, and wrist is back and cocked. Look at that. And the reason he's here is because as he moves back to the tee, he's in this amazing ready position as well. So now he can look and volley the very next shot that Linku hits if it's loose, if he can even return it. And in this case, we know that he couldn't because his kill bounced second bounce before the short line, which is kind of that perfect shot. Okay, a lot of content in this video. I've summarized some of the things over here. I hope that you can take these things and apply them to your own game when you practice deception. So number one, JP would generally, if it was a loose ball, he would get on it relatively quickly. And then on his forehand, he would, from the videos we saw, go open stance. So right leg forward on the forehand, toes pointed at that front corner, hips and chest are open. On the backhand, he typically liked to go close stance. So again, on the right leg. He would generally maintain this kind of like half level racket prep. He would never be up here because he had a very strong forearm wrist and his timing was really, really good. So he could generate a lot of power from that position. You noticed from the last clip as well, his wrist was always cocked. He would never have his wrist like this. So it was a strong wrist, and he would use his body's momentum. So he would either get into the ball quickly and then snap, transferring all that energy through his body into the ball. And then at the same time, he would go and he would slow down, but he wouldn't come to a dead stop, if you recall. He would slow down, pause, and then go. So you still have to use momentum even when you slow down, but it's a gradual decline and then an acceleration. It's a pretty advanced technique. He occasionally used a bit of a head fake, but it was never like a head fake like that. You noticed when he would go for his shots, he would pause and he would drop his head like he was doing something, and then he'd snap it. Or if he had his follow through, like you saw from the front right corner, he would follow through with his body and his head just a little bit like he was hitting that cross court, but then the ball was actually coming down the line. His snap of the forearm, like I said, all power, ton of power, all because of timing, and it was never this. And then we saw his natural deception, where he had the same setup. And what was the effect of all of these things? You saw Palmer and Linku misstepping. They weren't able to return the ball accurately, or they were under a ton of pressure and having to return defensively. And then there's the compounding effect I mentioned, which is every time you have that stutter and you have to shift your position and make your movement again, you're moving forward and you have to turn around, or you have a little stutter and then you have to push off explosively. That causes physical and mental frustration, and that adds up over time. For an amateur, it could be one hold and one broken movement like that and they're out for 2-3 points because they're mentally just frustrated. For a pro, you might have to do that for 20-30 minutes, and then they start breaking down and they go for shots or they swipe at the ball or whatever it is. And then the last piece obviously is, on occasion, you hit an outright winner when your opponent's guessing a little bit and your shot quality is high enough. So there it is. Lots of elements that are involved in this. I would not recommend that you go and try all of them at the same time. You have to go bits and pieces. So set up with the natural deception. That's probably the easiest one, and it's probably the one that you can get the most bang for buck when it comes to natural deception. And then the timing and the momentum piece is really important, but it's a tricky one. You probably need some guidance on that, either through some video analysis from a coach or through a one-on-one with a coach if your courts are open. And then the other one that most people make mistakes with is this. They think deception comes from this, but deception comes from the whole forearm and the body snapping through the ball. So I would encourage you to practice that if that's something you want to do. And then the last one obviously is you got to pick and choose the right moments to be deceptive. If you don't have time and you're under pressure, you're not going to try to flick and hit some crazy fancy shot. Then you need to respect and reset. And then you need to choose the appropriate time to actually use your deception after you've hit a good length and force something a little bit loose. It's all about breaking patterns, folks. I think you guys have I've tried to drill that into your heads, so I hope you understand it's all about breaking patterns, and deception is one way of breaking patterns. All right. I hope you enjoyed that video. Leave your comments. As always, if you like the content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, and I will see you in the next video.